open access publishing. We brought up open access earlier in the terminology. I talked about this quite briefly, and actually we had a question. How do you choose, when do you choose if your work is open access or not? So let's dive into open access publishing and why open access is connected to open science. Okay, something I discussed earlier briefly when I was introducing terminology, but let's look into it again and a little bit more detail. On the left-hand side is a screenshot you might have seen many times. You want to read a paper and you get to this kind of a website, and there is 48-hour online access, only access, you can't even download it, 12 American dollars. That's expensive. Online access, so you can keep accessing that article, but you can't even download it, 20 American dollars, and almost 50 US dollars to download a PDF of one article. These are ridiculous prices. These are absolutely ridiculous prices on the left-hand side. So this is, you purchase, you pay for one article. On the left-hand side, it says, oh, you can log in for your institution. And, that may work. Your institution is paying a subscription, so is buying that journal annually from this publisher. These are dozens, hundreds of thousands of dollars being paid per year by universities in subscription fees. The companies that stand behind publishing make huge profits from research that is published in these journals. This is why it's not okay. It's not, they're not just covering their cost. They are making huge profits. This is not breaking even. And because of that, the movement of open access started going up, because how is it, somebody said that you publish a paper and then your colleagues essentially have to pay to access it, perhaps not from their own pocket using that right-hand side, but actually the university that is employing you is paying the fees so that others can access your paper. And also, the paper you produced very likely was produced using public money, taxpayers' money, and therefore the taxpayers who are browsing the internet and may want to read some information, people do read papers, even if they're not scientists, they have to pay because they're not a member of a university that pays the subscription. So this whole idea of open access is that profit, huge profit made from academic publications is not okay. And this ties into the open science, making science more accessible and equitable. In particular, that pertains to places which struggle with funding, where paying those huge, ridiculous subscription fees is just impossible. Now, so open access does not mean, oh, there's just one open access, things just get somewhere published online, because we still care about the quality of these papers, we still care about peer review, and we still want to see the different the quality. So this here, the pathways to open access, we have the black path is the closed access, so it's never openly accessible. So this is the behind the paywall. We have the gold open access, where if you are publishing, you pay as the author. There are certain amounts to pay. They can be quite high, and that is a challenge because the universities may not have that in their budget. We could say, okay, they don't pay the subscription fees, so they have the monies to cover the expenses of publishing. And again, it's meant to cover the expenses, not make a huge amount of money to publishers, open access publishers. But still, there's a transition period. The universities still are paying for the access to journals. So that's a bit of a difficult one. Platinum or diamond open access, this is what everybody is striving to, or all the countries. In this case, this means that there is a central funder, perhaps the government, perhaps might be a non-governmental foundation that pays for the costs of running a publishing company or a journal. Again, it's meant to be cover mostly the cost, not make huge profits, and therefore both the reader and the author of the paper do not pay. And I think often people say, oh, platinum and diamond is free. Things are never free, but it means that those people at the end of that chain, so the reader and the author, don't have to find the money. It is the government or non-governmental organization that pays to maintain the journal. And green open access, that's kind of a situation where the organizations have a way of publishing work that has been published in journals so that readers can still read, access the paper, even if it was behind a paywall. And there are several things related to, because we could say, oh, well, you publish behind a paywall and then you just make your manuscript available anywhere. But there are challenges with this. It's not that simple. Also, okay, this is the summary here on the green, the diamond, platinum, gold, and there's also bronze where it becomes free after a while. So there's maybe a year when you have to pay to access the article, or maybe 2 years, and then it becomes free. Again, not ideal because we won't often have access to the newest publications as soon as possible. That's how science progresses, but a little better than closed access. Now, open access becomes it's not only a movement, it's only something that, oh, nice to have. It's also something that is gradually becoming a requirement or best practice by endorsed by national funders, national science organizations, sometimes international organizations as well. So in South Africa specifically, any work that has funded through National Research Foundation needs to become open access. So any research outputs in forms of publications should become open access. The same for Department of Higher Education. The subsidy can be granted if the outputs are also published in the journals, which are open access and are accredited by TED. Now, there are many open access journals. There's over 100 open access journals that are produced in South Africa. So this gives you an idea that the concept, the movement of open access journals, it's a big thing. It's not a marginal thing. There are many very good journals that are open access, and the number is growing. Okay, let's look at something that I think is a dark side, or maybe not dark side of the open access itself, but some people exploiting it. And I did signal this when we talked about the terminology, predatory journals. So open access means, in those sort of gold journals, is that you pay to get published. So you submit your publication, the publisher, okay, peer-reviewed is fine, you can publish, but you need to pay, all right? So because we have to recover the cost somehow, because we're not charging the readers. Now, this unfortunately led to a group of journals, that pop up around the world and predatory behavior. So these journals say, oh, that's a great way to make money. So these are often just established, these are not well-established journals. They just set up and say, hi, do you want to publish your paper in our journal? And peer reviews in these journals are really, they either don't exist or everything gets accepted so that people pay to get published. Because the promise is, well, I'm going to publish more. And we all know this is what boosts your career. The more, sadly still, the more publications you have, the better. And so there's a huge temptation to keep publishing in these predatory journals because they will accept almost everything because they get money. But there, the caveat is this is a known problem. Predatory journals are a known problem. And the fact that they may publish things without proper peer review, that is something which is looked down upon and can be actually really detrimental to your career. So yes, you have a boosted number of publications, but then it is checked, either by people who read it or funders that you publish, because these predatory journals are listed, they're known. The publication is in the predatory journal, and that publication may be even counted against you or just not even looked at. So do not fall into that. Do not be conscious where you're publishing. How to do that? How to not be a victim of a predatory journal. Again, there are tools. There are tools to help you. So there's a website, thinkchecksubmit.org. The link is here. And does allow you to check before you submit your paper to a journal. Is this a place where, is this a predatory journal or is this a good journal? So this is one of the ways you can do that. There is also global and globally maintained sort of the open database of open access journals that you can check and get the information about them. So directory of open access journals. And Open Policy Finder. So that's something that is related to what I was saying about different journals, funders, publishers having different rules around openness in publishing. Some journals may say, well, we'll keep it closed for 2 years and then it can get released. But here you can also check the funder and see if the funder says, well, anything that we fund needs to be published openly, instantly. So this is also a good tool for you to figure out what policy around openness is for journals and publishers, but also a funder if you're applying for funding or if you got funding. This is a screenshot from how, if you look at a particular journal in the Open Policy Finder, it gives you an information. So I looked up one of the Omics, something related to your discipline, and it shows you what kind of openness it offers, and it does allow. So, for example, for published work, it's open publishing, open access. You do need to pay fees by the look of it. No embargo means that you can. There's no accessed via paid means, and it doesn't mean you can't distribute it freely. So quite open. And also they specify the license on the paper here. So that is a normal practice. And they say the license on the paper is CC BY, so quite permissive, but it guarantees attribution. Again, please, what questions you may have or something that wasn't clear regarding open access.